My full name is Teresa Catherine Stortini. I was born in February the 20th, 1931. I was born in Port Arthur, Ontario, which is now Thunder Bay. My family was from Thunder Bay, and I lived there till into my early 20s. I moved to Schreiber in 1960. My mother's parents, my mother was born on a farm outside of Peterborough, and her parents came from, her ancestors came from Ireland. And they were born down in a smaller Peterborough, where they were from. And my grandfather was born on Silver Mountain, and my grandmother was born in Thunder Bay, I guess, yeah. I was married on November the 12th, 1960, and my husband's name was Roland, Roldy for short. We actually met on a blind date. I have 5 children. Virginia is 52. Mary is 51. Julia is 50. Andrea is 45. And John is 40. Mary has 2 children. Billy, he's 20. And Haley is 18. Virginia has 2 children. Bailey is 17. Jack is 13. And John has 2 children. Peyton is 6, and James is 3. Yes, I did. I was a secretary. When I first started working, I worked for an organization, Lumbermen's Safety Association, in Port Arthur for 4 years. And then I went to Toronto, and I worked in the Parliament buildings down there for a year. And the weather chased me home because it was so damp down there. I couldn't take it. So then I worked for Canadian Car, and I worked for Husky Oil. And then I came down the North Shore and worked for Kimberly-Clark as the mill manager secretary. And from there I left and stayed at home to look after children when they were born. As a librarian, I retired at 65, and I started in the library about in my 50s. Oh, volunteer work. When my children started to get a little older, I was involved in the Brownies Figure Skating Association. I was always involved with my church. I was CWL president for twice, and many of the other offices. And Cancer Society, I was involved with them from the time I came to Schreiber. So I was on the library board too. I grew up in a family of 5, and I was the youngest, and I had 3 older brothers I could wrap around my finger. They were all very good to me. And yeah, my favorite memories were a great mother and dad and a beautiful childhood. Oh, I ice skated, and we played out on the street at night, hopscotch or run sheep run, or the old games that are no longer around. And, I took music lessons, and that's about it. Went to school. Oh my, it's a way different world than the world I was brought up in, and not a much better world by far. It's just changed like night and day as far as I'm concerned. Like when we were kids, we played on our own street, and we played outside. We didn't have TV. We had a radio in those days. So, I mean, you made your own fun. You didn't rely on something else to be making fun for you. the whole internet, I mean, that certainly wasn't around, and it wasn't around when I was first working in my teens. I mean, that's the big thing now, that, you know, you can set up your monitor or whatever it is there, and see somebody halfway across the world, you know, and talk to them. So that certainly is a big change in this world. I quilt. That's a big hobby. It's an expensive hobby, but I love it. I've sewed for years. I had 4 daughters, and I sewed for all of them. And when I had John, I said, sorry, kid, you're not getting anything, so I only. I have a big house, and part of my hobby is keeping it clean, etc. Patch of Friends Quilting Club. We have a great group, and we just went down to Duluth over the past weekend, and came back with the big new long arm, which is a machine where you put your quilts on to quilt them. And we have, as I say, the ladies, we all get along just fine, and it's a good group and a lot of fun. Yeah. Well, I didn't come to Schreiber until 1960 in the fall, and it was booming then because there were more jobs for the railroaders, and we had the mine, and the population was almost double what it is today. And we had more stores, and yeah, it was a little bit more interesting going over town to shop. I think that's about it. We had a lot of activities, which we still do, the hockey and the figure skating, and the Brownies and the Cubs and Scouts are long gone, but that was quite an organization too, yes. I belonged to a bridge club from the time I came to Schreiber for years, and then half of them started to go by the wayside, and most of them are over in the cemetery right now. So that kind of went. I think the only one left is Flora, and she likes to play bridge, and she's in her 90s, so good for her, you know. Schreiber's a great place. I wouldn't want to live anywhere else. I lived in Terrace Bay for about 4 years because I worked in Terrace Bay. And Terrace Bay was, you know, more of a community where you were either up on the high road or down on the low road, eh? And Schreiber was none of that. You know, you could be as poor as a church mouse and sit beside the millionaire, and, you know, that was the way Schreiber was. And still is. Friendly and easygoing, and, you know.